this video I'm going to show you all you need to know about the Squier Classic Vibe 60s precision bass. Hey guys, I'm Tyler and thank you for tuning back into the channel once again. If you're new around here, don't forget to consider hitting that like button and hit that subscribe button and notification bell too if you like what I'm doing and you want to see more of it. So as I said in the intro, in this video I'm going to be showing you everything, all you need to know about the Squier Classic Vibe 60s precision bass. I should say to start off with that this video is in collaboration with Guitar Centre Langley here in the UK, so hence the t-shirt, and this is one of their basses that is currently in stock. So if you want to buy this very bass, the one that's in my hands, not the same model, this actual one, you can do, head over to their website and hit the button to add it to your cart and buy it now. And to be honest, I'm going to go into a bit more detail on this, but this specific one is a really beautiful piece. So if you are considering getting one of these, this actual one, this piece of wood, pretty good. Check it out. I'll leave links to the Guitar Centre and this bass in the description below. In this video I'm going to run you through all of the specs of this bass, then I'm going to play a little bit just plugged in, and then I'm going to put some samples back to back with some drums so you can hear how this bass sounds. Different styles, fingerstyle, slap style, some pick style, and also with some foam under the bridge here to mute it, to show you a bit of a Motown type sound, and then I'm going to give you my conclusions on the bass as a whole. So we're going to start off with the specs of the bass, and as I've said already, this is a really pretty piece, a really great piece, and I'm really quite impressed with this bass. So I'm just going to go through what you've got on the bass and my opinions on the build quality and things like that quickly. So we have kind of a classic construction with a little bit of a twist, which, as we've seen in the Squier range before, if you've seen my other Squier videos, that's commonplace. Squiers have kind of substitute materials that replicate the big boy versions, the American standards, the expensive basses, and they put in other woods that are pretty good alternatives. So for a start we have a fretboard which has got Indian laurel on it, so that's an alternative to rosewood. But I will say, check out the figuring in this particular bass. Really pretty figuring, which to some that might look a bit wrong and discoloured, but I actually really like it. It's kind of like a tiger stripe ebony. Different grain, it has a little bit of discoloration and stuff in it, which makes it look really cool. Then we have a maple neck, which is a classic Fender piece. When it comes down to the body, the online specs say that it's poplar. To my eye, that does not look like poplar. Poplar is a very plain wood, it's even plainer than alder. So for me, I think this is actually a NATO body, which is what we've seen on the Jaguar Bass. Check that out on my channel, and in a couple of other Squier basses too, including the 70s Squier Classic Vibe. So I think it's quite likely that this also has a NATO body. It could be a veneer or something on top, but really, from what I can see, you can see here where the two different grains are joined together, which is a commonplace thing with two pieces of bodywood. So it looks like it's a two-piece body. You've got one piece over here, and then here where there's this little change in the grain is another line, and that's another piece for the body. So I'd say this is a NATO construction. If it had a veneer, say, if it was poplar underneath but with a veneer on the top, it's likely that it wouldn't have this line to show the join. You just get quite a unified looking grain across the back where they copied a veneer and then left it as it was. But that's just my view. I think it's a NATO body rather than poplar, but if you know something I don't, let me know in the comments below. This is a precision bass, so as you can expect, we've got a precision bass pickup here, Alnico, so a more vintage type wind and sound to it. Then we have the volume knob and a tone control, classic P-bass setup, input jack there. We've got a Fender bent bridge, usual vintage stuff, as I've said before on these kind of videos, same bridge that I have on this, which is my custom shop bass, so you're not really losing out there. Coming up to the headstock, we have a bone nut. These Fender Squier tuners, which are really reasonable, a little bit fluted to help you with the string winding. Nothing special. They're kind of one of the things that I always suggest you change out, but these ones feel pretty decent. And then a string tree to help keep that D and G string nice and close down to the body, get that break angle across the nut, and allow you to get a good tension and good sound and intonation from those D and G strings. On the back of the headstock we have the Backed by Fender and Crafted in Indonesia logo. To finish off the look, we have a sunburst finish and then a tortoiseshell scratch plate. Now I can't imagine this happens on every single one of these that comes out of the factory. I know on all the other Squiers that I've had through from the Guitar Centre, they've not had this level of kind of beautiful woods, but this particular one seems to be a bit of an anomaly. And we have a neck here that's got a really great finish and it's actually got a little bit of flame in the maple, which I think is quite impressive. I mean, maple, different parts of it do have, you know, different figurings, but it's really cool to see it on such a well, let's face it, a bass that's at the lower end of the market. So you've got a really nice flame in here that goes across into the headstock, which I can really appreciate. The grain here on the NATO, I think is a really great look. It's much more interesting than an older Sunburst precision bass and kind of makes it a bit more in the territory of an Ash precision bass. It's a really cool look. As I've said already, the fingerboard has this cool discoloration, but I think it's really tasteful and quite artsy looking. And then overall we've got this tortoiseshell scratch plate, which just kind of finishes off the look for me and I think looks really great. When it comes to the build quality, this particular model is probably the best Squier that I've played so far. Everything is really well put together, really great fit, and the volume and tone knobs feel really good. They're great. They don't have, with quite a lot of the Squier basses, you get a little bit of a loose feeling in the tone and the volume controls, but this one in particular, very flat travel around the knob, so you don't get the kind of waving as it isn't straight on the shaft as it turns around, which I find a little bit annoying when that happens. And really smooth travel, not too easy but not too hard either. It's just the right amount to be able to make an accurate choice about where your tone controls are and your volume controls. As I always say, this is a classic vibe bass, so it's not entirely vintage spec'd, and one of those places that it really rings true is in the neck profile. The neck width itself is 1.685 inches, which is halfway between a jazz bass and a precision bass. Really, it's dead in the middle between the two. So you get a kind of a hybrid feel as well. Down at the bottom of the neck, it's a little bit thicker, much thicker than the 70s Classic Vibe Precision. And then as you start to come up towards the 12th fret and beyond, you kind of have that similar profile, but just thins out a little bit, flattens out a little bit. It's definitely not a jazz bass feel, but it's also not a full-size precision bass feel. If you are new to the instrument, I feel like this is a slightly more difficult profile. I don't think it's the easiest to play straight away compared to a jazz bass or something of that ilk, but it is a very vintage, classic feeling neck. It's not full-on original massive neck, but it does have that vintage feel and it feels like a precision bass. A lot of the Squiers, particularly the precision basses, they don't actually feel like P basses. Quite a lot of the time they feel like jazz bass necks and then precision bass body and pickups, which makes sense particularly if you're starting out or you're not a particularly experienced player. But if you want a bass that feels like a P bass and has that sound as well, this is a really great place to be. Outside of the really great woods and the neck profile on this bass, I think this is the best built Squier P bass that I've played. The neck pocket is really great. It feels really solid and right up there with a made in Mexico or even made in America bass. At this point in the video, I'm just going to run you through the range of the controls on the bass, and then after that I'm going to put the bass head to head with itself and some drums so you can hear the different tones you can get with pick style, slap style, finger style, and a little bit of foam muting under the bridge. So let's take a look at some of the tones you can get from this bass. This is with the volume on full and the tone on full as well. Classic P-bass tone there with a bit more of the growl from the treble and the tone being full up. Now this is the volume on full and the tone halfway. So that's kind of where I like to play a lot of my P basses. As you roll off the tone with the P bass, you get a little bit more thickness in the low end, as it takes the treble off, you get a bit more bottom end. So 50% is always a cool area to be, enough treble to cut still, but that extra bass that you get from rolling off the tone. So this is the tone with the volume all the way up and the tone rolled off. One other thing I like to do is to use a bit of foam underneath the bridge, particularly if you're running round wound strings, which is what this comes strong with as standard. Putting the foam under the bridge allows you to get more of that classic Motown type sound, and if you want to replicate that with round wound strings, I think this is the easiest, fastest and quickest way to get there without having to change your strings. So this is an idea of how that sounds. So now you've heard what the Squier sounds like on its own, now I'm going to put it together with some drums. Don't forget to put your favourite setting in the comments below while you're watching this next segment. In this last section of the video, I'm going to give you my thoughts and let you know who I think this bass is ideally suited to. Now, I do seem to say this every time I review another Squier. They just seem to be getting better and better, but for me this is probably my favourite Squier that I've played. This did feel like a proper full-on P-bass the moment I got it out and plugged it in. I actually spent a little bit of time before I recorded this video just comparing between this and my custom shop there. And they are very similar instruments, and that's probably no surprise. The P-bass is a really simple instrument. I would say that this bass has a lot more growl. I think it's got a bit more mid-range, high mid-range, and again, I've said this in previous videos, I attribute that to the NATO body. It also has a lot of bloom to the note, and I think that's, again, the body, I think it produces more of the second harmonic, so you don't get as much fundamental, that really deep bass, but you do get more of that bloom and growl and mid-range, which, to be honest, is most of the time going to probably help you cut through a mix better than having that fundamental there, because that's always difficult for a bass amp to reproduce. In terms of the sounds, this really is a 60s sounding instrument. It's quite dark. I think even with the tone all the way up, the choice of pickup and the tone controls, it's not a super bright bass. It is that classic 60s type sound, and that's what you'd want from a bass with this title. I think if you like the Motown sound, putting some flat ones on this, you're going to get that straight away. The build quality is really good. This is the best build quality from a Squier that I've seen, whether that was just a Monday morning bass, or whether the people that are working on the Classic Vibe 60s are doing an exceptional job in comparison to other Squiers. This one is right up there. None of the Squiers I've played have been bad, but this one really could compete. If you change the name on the headstock and a few of the features and put American Harbour on it, I think many people would find it really tough to know that this was a Squier rather than a Mexican or an American made P-bass. Overall, I'd recommend this bass to anyone who's looking for a bass that suits those traditional styles, really old school Motown type sounds, old school soul sounds. This is going to do a great job. Again, if you want to use something with a pick that's going to sound great through something like an Ampeg rig and just you can rock out with it, another great bass for that. I'd suggest that if you want super modern tones or some of those 70s great slap tones, this probably isn't quite the bass for you. So overall, that's my review of the Squier Classic Vibe 60s bass. I hope that's helped some of you out. I know a few of you in the comments were asking if I could get hold of one of these, and I wanted to do this video for you to make sure that you had a good comparison between the 70s and the 60s P. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll also link the 70s video in the description, and I want you to let me know in the comments which is your favourite, whether you prefer the 70s P-bass sound or the 60s P-bass sound. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you like this video, and if you want to see more content exactly like this is exactly how I do my reviews, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell as well. Don't forget to head over to my Instagram to follow me there to keep up to date with all the other bassy stuff that I do, and the link to that should be below me right now. And also don't forget to check out the Guitar Centre Langley here in the UK. If you want to buy this very bass, head to the description, the link will be there, or head over to their website, which the link will also be below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you around soon.